In this segment, we'd like to review common CO2 bottle leaks that might occur during the operation of your Concorde crossbow. We recommend using a CO2 bottle such as the one I have here, which is refillable and includes both a valve and an O-ring. The most common form of a leak with a CO2 bottle such as this is the O-ring itself. Over time, the O-ring can become brittle or crack. It can also rip or tear when the bottle is being screwed in or screwed out of the CO2 receiver. In that case, the O-ring will need to be replaced. It's also important to point out that oftentimes it can be very difficult to visually inspect an O-ring to determine whether or not it's bad and needs to be replaced. If you cannot determine that it's damaged, we recommend replacing it anyway. Replacing it is quite simple. You'll simply need to pinch the O-ring around the valve, and using a small blunt object such as a handheld screwdriver, such as I have here, you're going to want to reach underneath the O-ring, as I'm doing here, and then just replace it with a new O-ring that you know has not been used and has no issues, and it simply press fits on as I've done here. In all likelihood, that will resolve 90% of the issues that you may encounter with the CO2 bottle leaking. One other point that you're going to want to keep in mind is that the brass valve itself is made of a soft metal. Brass is a soft metal that can very easily dent or get bent. If it's accidentally dropped on the floor, you can damage or dent both the opening around the O-ring or the valve itself. And in such a case, you could develop a leak that would either be very visible or auditory. You would see the gas leaking or you would hear the gas leaking, or it can be a slow leak. And if you notice there's any damage around the valve itself, it'll need to be serviced by a qualified technician. An additional point would be whenever you're storing your CO2 bottle, you should keep the protective cap on it to make sure that the valve is not damaged in case it does get dropped or banged against something. Lastly, you'll notice that this CO2 bottle includes a small, what we refer to as a burst disc. The burst disc is an important safety mechanism on the CO2 bottle, and we strongly recommend using a CO2 bottle that has a burst disc. The burst disc is designed to keep the bottle from getting overpressurized. If the bottle gets overpressurized, you risk having the bottle actually explode, and the burst disc is designed to rupture in case the bottle gets overpressurized. The bottle can easily become overpressurized if it's overfilled or if the temperature that the bottle encounters exceeds 130 degrees Fahrenheit. In that case, with the burst disc itself would rupture and all the CO2 would be released from the bottle, protecting the bottle and of course anyone around it from the bottle exploding. So now with those few points and suggestions, you should be able to address all of the potential CO2 bottle leaks that you might encounter with your Concorde crossbow.